They travel at speeds pushing 200 miles per hour. The very best drivers in the world putting their lives on the line every week. It's time to get the lowdown on this week's contenders, plus a look at the key driver matchups. Right now on Gaughan Racin.
And welcome in, everybody. This is Gaughan Racin, the fabulous Racin Studios in the South Point Hotel Casino. Mr. Jeff Motley alongside me, Brendan Gaughan. And we, Mr. Motley, little wrap up on our Phoenix Raceway. We have our championship for Phoenix, though. In the end, it turned out to be, kind of a nail biter.
Yeah, and we can both pat ourselves on the back just a little bit. We called it. We said we thought Denny might get a Hail Mary, or we thought somebody would hit a Hail Mary, and one of those two, either.
Well, we said that either Kyle or Joey was probably
Kyle or Joey was going to be out, and it turns out that Joey's out and Denny's in. I mean, and look, Denny knew what he had to do. A lot of credit to Denny, and I think finally he's starting to get his due over the last couple of weeks. Chris Gaughan, I think what he's done on the box and everything, I think he's done an amazing job. And I tell you, I've been saying for about the last 3 or 4 months, I think Denny's the guy to beat, and I'm not changing my tune.
Chris Gaughan, I listened to him on the Late Shift with Brad Doherty, Sirius XM on NASCAR radio on the Late Shift. And I really was impressed listening to him. I don't know a lot. Look, he's the crew chief there is the unknown for me of Chris Gaughan. Really loved what I heard him say. Really loved the way he was talking. I really liked it. But Denny Hamlin, look, I said this before the playoffs started. Denny was we all said this. Hottest guy in the sport was Denny going into the playoffs. Martin Truex dominated the first round. Denny was still good. But Denny, we've always said for years, his Achilles heel has been playoffs or the chase, whichever format it was. As soon as it happened, he pulled 10 strings. He'd always find a way to.
He's made one mistake in 9 races. Now it almost cost him.
Well, and I even thought in the back of my head at Texas, did the pressure get to him? Is this the Denny? Did he choke again right before? Almost cost him a chance to make it to Homestead again. But his comeback to me is what was amazing. Not just the comeback. How well the comeback. He flat out stomped him into a mud hole.
He did. I mean, I think at one time he had a lead of like 17, 18 seconds on the field. I think we have a crash with about 10 laps to go when John Hunter Nemechek hit the wall, tightened up the field, made crew chiefs make some pit strategies. I think Steve Letarte, who was doing the broadcast for NBC, he was pretty critical of Chris Gaughan on doing the 2-tire stop. But I'm not so sure that a 4-tire stop may not have cost him the race, because I think Blaney gets out with 2 tires. He gets the preferred line.
Does he get away? Does he not?
Where does Denny come out? And if Denny comes out second, because he did have a very big lead going into the pits.
That's what Letarte pointed out, that he hit pit road 5 to 7 seconds before anybody even was on
and
pit road.
I think probably the best break that Denny caught was that the only other driver who took 2 tires was Ryan Blaney. And you had to know, given where Kyle Busch, a teammate, was running, and Martin Truex Jr., where he was running as a teammate, you had to know those guys were going to get out pretty quick. Now, had 5 or 6 guys done 2-tire stops, it could have gotten really interesting really fast, because then you would have had Kyle and Martin probably mired back there in 6th, 7th, 8th place, and you wouldn't have had that teammate factor going on.
Well, and if you're Denny Hamlin, were you a little more comfortable seeing your teammates back there? I'm not saying they didn't race him hard. I'm not going there, but look, I'm a teammate. Even I pay attention to situations. You got to feel that he had a better shot. He had to feel a little more comfortable the fact that he had his teammates in the playoffs kind of locked in at that point, that maybe they were going to give him a little bit of a break.
It's funny you say, and I agree with you to some degree. I mean, I certainly would feel good if I'm Denny Hamlin and I know I got Martin Truex Jr. back there, and if I'd had Eric Jones back there. But I think we know Kyle and Kyle's competitiveness to win. And look, Kyle hadn't won a race since May. And don't get me wrong, Kyle's a team guy. I mean, he wants to see, but he ain't won a race. Well, let me ask you this though: if you're Kyle Busch, what is your number one priority?
Kyle Busch.
But your number one priority is to win the championship, right?
Yeah.
Would you rather have to race Joey Logano or Denny Hamlin right now at Homestead for the championship?
I would rather race Joey Logano for the championship.
Exactly. I mean, so if he was really helping Denny there, he helped a guy who he knows can win it all.
No, and that is very true. It was definitely an interesting down the stretch race. And to me, in our championship 4, and we'll get to the odds of the championship 4, but 3 Joe Gibbs cars. 3 Joe Gibbs cars. I mean, absolutely. In our day, Hendrick Motorsports was, right? I mean, Hendrick was the heat. I mean, think about what Hendrick could do. Hendrick never had anything like this.
Well, other than Jimmy winning every year.
He won 7 in a row, get it. But
he was 7 in a row. Did he win 7 in a row?
I won 5 in a row.
Yeah, okay.
But won 5 in a row and then 7 total.
Right, and Jeff had his day, but obviously the other cars never. You usually only had 2 cars.
Yeah.
It was Jeff and Jimmy. And Dale Jr. never really was challenging for a championship. Casey Kane and
even when Kyle Busch was there.
Even go back, Kyle Busch and Casey Mears and Brian Vickers and some of those guys. Remember Hendrick? They were really never in contention like these guys.
This is unbelievable to me, and we'll put some odds up here. And what I do like is we're showing the odds last week, and you and I said this on this show last week, Jeff Motley, that the odds to win the championship, we said Denny Hamlin. Pull up the tape even. Go back and rewind it.
Right, pound Denny Hamlin.
Pound Denny Hamlin. He is 12-1 last week to win this championship. Jump on him now, because if he's the guy that makes this playoff format, he is going to be one of the favorites. And sure enough, he went from a 12-1 last week to plus 275.
Well, and it's interesting because when you look at these 4 drivers, you've got 3 guys who have won Homestead to win the championship. And the guy who hasn't won one, Denny Hamlin, has probably been the most consistent, with the exception of Texas 2 weeks ago, has probably been one of the most consistent guys on 1.5-mile tracks over the last part of the season. Now, early in the year, racing at Las Vegas and Atlanta were not his forte. We know he won at Texas early in the year, and we know he's been running well on these tracks throughout the entire season. Boy, look out.
Well, let's give you the odds right here. Last week, Kevin Harvick was 2-1. This week, he's plus 225. So still one, your favorite. Kyle Busch 7-2 last week. This week 5-2. So 2.5-1. Martin Truex Jr. was plus 225. This week he'd be plus 250. It's 5-2. And Denny Hamlin was 12-1 this week, plus 275. Amazingly enough to me, he is the underdog in that deal. That's at the South Point here. If you're going to bet the championship, I think Chris Andrews, we may have to have a word with Chris again. We go talk to Chris and Jimmy all the time. I think they got that a little off.
Well, I think Kevin Harvick's the favorite for one reason. He won at Texas 2 weeks ago, and Homestead
and
is
his Homestead record.
Homestead is and he's got a good Homestead record. I also think that Denny is the guy who has not won the championship. So I think sometimes being the guy who has not won it is going to make you a little bit the underdog. But look how close it is. I mean, we said plus 225, 2 plus 250s, and a plus 275. I mean, we're not talking about a long shot for anybody, really.
And you've got Kevin Harvick as the favorite. He has 10 top 10 finishes in last 10 races there. But how about this? Who has the most wins in the last 10 races at Homestead Miami Speedway?
I'm sure you're going to tell me. What's Racing Reference say?
Denny Hamlin.
Really?
2 wins.
Well, that's interesting considering the fact that since we started this current playoff format, the champion has won the race. So it's been a while then since Denny's won.
Well, and that was the point, is that Denny, when it was the chase format and he was just too far out of reach, he wasn't making it there. He won in 2013 and 2009 when it was the original chase format. He was already out of reach there. But since the chase format hasn't mattered, he's been 10th, 9th, 9th, 12th. But in the playoff format.
And look, don't we all know that when these guys get to Homestead now, look, the other guys, if they have an opportunity to win, yes, they're going to seize it. But at the end of the day, they're going to let these 4 guys.
Yeah, no, here's why I disagree with that.
Well, then why has it every single year the guy that's won the race has won the championship?
Because the 4 guys we have here are the 4 top guys in the sport.
Yeah, no, but you wouldn't think it would.
We didn't get a guy limping
But you wouldn't think it would happen.
Kyle Busch is limping in.
But you would not think it would happen every year.
No, but think about it. They're not always 1, 2, 3, 4.
No.
They're always 1, 2, 1, 3.
Carl Edwards should have won it.
Had that deal where he got crashed out.
I mean, the only reason Jimmy Johnson won that championship, and that was Carl's fault. He had so far and away the best car on the track.
And Carl knows it. But the point is, they always win because you have the best 4 guys. We don't have Ryan Blaney, who was good, making a run at it. But he would have been, if the odds had Kyle Blaney for the championship, he'd still be a 6-1 with only 4 guys. So, I mean, you got to look at the fact that the 4 best guys are there. One of these 4 is probably going to win it. But if I'm Brad Keselowski, damn right I want to ruin their day.
All right, so let me.
Damn right
all right, so
I want to go out there.
so let's talk about that for a second. You're Brad Keselowski or Joey Logano. Is there a manufacturer play that comes in here with Harvick? You're going to take it easy on Harvick a little bit?
It's a different organization.
I understand that. But we've heard all this about manufacturers.
Okay.
We saw the meeting that Chevrolet had at Talladega.
Chevrolets in the championship.
Well,
you're telling me that
no, they will be out for themselves. I agree.
You think Chase Elliott, they're not going to
I didn't ask about Chase Elliott. I asked about Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano. Will they cut Harvick some slack?
I don't think they will. Why would I? I have my own team, my own owner, totally separate. It's Roger Penske. I would be out there, like, if I'm Brad, I go, you know what? I want to ruin all their days. I want to be the first guy to win this race that's not in the Final Four. That's the way I would approach it.
Will be the most obscure race winner they've had in a long time. Because, it's funny, because they get to give out 2 trophies to the same guy. They've been doing every year.
Every year they've been lucky. They have hand. Here's your trophies.
How'd you like to be the guy that has to sell signage on Victory Lane, and you may not even get anybody to Victory Lane because the winner's out on
everybody's out on the
start-finish line getting your championship trophy.
I do believe that most likely the race winner is going to come from those 4, but it can. And if I'm, like I said, if I'm one of the other guys, I want to fight for it.
Well, and let's talk about one other thing that happened at Phoenix. And this is something for people to remember, and especially come 2020 when we get near the end of the season. We really found out after the race that Truex's team really didn't even try to win.
Yeah, no, they brought it home.
They left half their guys back in Charlotte to get ready for Homestead. They brought a backup car. Now, he ended up still finishing, 4th or 5th, and he ran pretty well all day. I'm not so sure if Harvick didn't do the same thing. I mean, these guys were already locked in. So maybe as you're betting these things, you look at the guys that are already locked into Homestead and you stay way away from those guys.
Well, those guys, those 4 guys are the guys that they're. And we're going to come back in the next segment and talk about the Ford EcoBoost odds to win the race and the DraftKings odds, and we're going to talk about what the odds makers think about the chances of anybody other than those 4 winning this race, finishing in the top 3. So when we come back, we'll get more into the numbers on Gaughan Racing.
This is Gaughan Racing, the weekly NASCAR show that gets you ready for this week's big race and more. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live. Back to our weekly NASCAR show, live from the sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now, back to Gaughan Racing.
All right, everybody, welcome back in. Gaughan Racing, Brendan Gaughan, Jeff Motley, the VSiN studio. And now it's time to get to the nuts and bolts. Time to get to the important things. We've talked about Phoenix. We've talked about last week. We know we're going to talk a lot about the champion. But let's talk about the Ford EcoBoost 400. The last championship race at Homestead. Next year it'll be moving to Phoenix. They're going to start changing the schedules up now. So
last time it's going to be called the Ford
EcoBoost,
400 too.
Yeah.
I heard some vodka company I think is taking over Dixie Vodka next year. Yeah,
City Light shines better.
And that race is going to be in the spring, I believe. Right? It's going to be a few weeks after Daytona.
I haven't even seen the. Actually, I do think I remember.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like maybe late March, early April, somewhere.
It's always been kind of fun. I mean, everybody says mile and a halves are the mile and a halves but Homestead's always been its own animal. Homestead has always been a different configured 2 straightaways. It's definitely a different racetrack, and being the championship race, though, has always kind of affected how we play it. And let's go right into the odds here. How we play it is you have 2 favorites. You have Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch at plus 275. Right behind them, Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin at 3-1. There's your 4 championship contenders. Only one other guy in single digits, a guy, Jeff Motley, that we have talked all year long that if he could make it to Homestead, he did not. He is 8-1. That is Kyle Larson.
Yeah, the one thing that I find a little bit interesting is we talked about the odds to win the championship. Harvick is the favorite to win the championship, but he's not the favorite to win the race against.
He's tied as the co-favorite.
No, he's not. He's 3-1, whereas Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. are both plus 275. How odd is? I mean, I'm trying to sit here and get my mind around this now.
Jimmy and Chris, they're paying a little too much attention right now to football and basketball, and I think they're not paying enough attention to this. So you might be able to sneak in.
Yeah, you might want to come down to the South Point and bet it back both ways.
You can sneak one in on them there.
You might be able to sneak one in on those guys. But you're right. You talked about Kyle Larson. I mean, 8-1. Obviously he's also not a Ford or Toyota.
So
there's no
right.
There's no manufacturer loyalty for him to help out anybody. It's going to be an every man for himself. And I think Kyle Larson probably, if somebody's going to break through, he's probably as good a guy as any.
Be Kyle. Then we get down to the Penske Fords. Joey Logano is 25-1. Brad Keselowski 30. Chase Elliott 51. Eric Jones 60. Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, and Alex Bowman all also up there at 60-1.
We have not seen numbers like that on those guys all year. I mean, they really think people are just going to pull over for these four guys.
I think the problem is everybody. You've got the four best people. I do think that there's a lot in this number of, hey, we're not going to put them. They don't think they're going to win. They think the champion is going to win the race. And, showing Alex Bowman, who's been top 3 at a bunch of mile and a halves. He's won. He's been good. Having him at 60-1, I definitely think shows that it's definitely the way they're trending. But I like to look at the two. You mentioned it off air, Jeff. Last year's race winner was
Joey Logano.
And he is our champion, reigning champion for one more week. He's 25-1.
Yeah, that's those are big numbers on Penske cars on mile and a half tracks. That's all I can say.
25-1 is.
We know early in the year that Brad Keselowski won at Atlanta, and then Joey Logano came to Las Vegas and won here. So to have those two guys who are really good on 1.5 mile tracks. In fact, I talk about Atlanta and Vegas this year, but you go back over the last 3 or 4 years, they've been two of the best drivers on the circuit on mile and a half tracks. And for those guys to be 25-1 and 30-1, I mean, if you're looking for some value, there's value there.
The two there to me are, if you're willing to take the chance that a champion's not going to win it, 8-1 on Kyle Larson, 25-1 on Joey Logano. And like I said, last year's race winner, Kyle Larson, a guy all year long we've talked and said flat out, it was the big if Kyle Larson can make it. Well,
he didn't.
But they're giving him the respect and love that I think is deserved at Homestead for him. He's 8-1.
Well, and a lot of those guys know. I mean, that they're not going to be back racing again for the next 2.5 months until you get to Daytona, or almost 3 months. So you put everything on the line right now. I mean, and some of those guys, they're really trying to win for their team.
Oh, and like you said, maybe Ford has a little something with Joey and Brad, but Kyle Larson, he's the guy that absolutely wants to get Chevrolet in that victory lane and stand there. He wants to stand in that victory lane, the victory lane, and go, boom. And wait for that trophy presentation for.
And I would say the exact same thing about Chase Elliott. And look, Chase Elliott, the last round of the playoffs, it was a complete disaster for him.
Wheels fell off, literally
and figuratively. And I think he's probably going to be a guy that's going to go to Homestead and feel like, I got a little something to prove. I want to show that I can be a championship contender. And I think when you look at some of those younger drivers, like a Chase Elliott, like a Kyle Larson, like an Eric Jones, a Ryan Blaney, guys that got into the playoffs this year, but we weren't successful in the playoffs, they know that they want to kind of send a message that going into 2020, we're going to be somebody to beat. And I think winning a race like this one at Homestead would go a long way toward giving them a little bit of a boost.
And I chuckle you said that because I did notice I am the old guy. Remember, I've joked that the last dozen races I've been in, I'm the oldest in the field. I did love to look at...
Were you really the oldest in the field?
Yeah, last dozen Cup races. But what I like to look at is they did the ages of all the drivers in the championship. And I know we love talking about the youth movement. Suck it, youth. The old guys are in there.
Who's the youngest one? I'm going to guess it's Kyle Busch, right? And Kyle's, 34?
34 or 36, one of the two. 34.
34 probably.
Kevin Harvick's 43. Denny Hamlin's 39. Martin Truex was
in his 40s too, I believe.
40 and Kyle was 34. So suck it, youth. Old guy still showing it.
I didn't know you were the oldest guy in the field at Talladega. Can we get Morgan Shepherd in that race in Daytona next year?
Derek Cope, Morgan, somebody come back for me. Help me out. All right, let's go to one of our favorites, which this week may be a little bit difficult to find a favorite. I have a funny feeling Ann, Jeff, and myself may be staying away from this bet this week. The DraftKings top 3.
Yeah, it's your favorite most of the time, but not this week.
Not this week. So what we have in the DraftKings top 3 is Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex Jr. are all minus 122. DraftKings is not putting a lot of risk on the line here, and deservedly so. You look at history, that normally those guys are battling for the lead. So
They just think everybody's pulling over.
I will give him that.
And I don't think you and I are completely bought in
on that. But then you got Kyle Larson, who we just mentioned, plus 200. We've already mentioned that he's the guy that we think could be a spoiler here. Joey Logano, plus 350. Brad Keselowski, plus 500. Chase Elliott, plus 600. Those are all your single digits. Then you get to the 10-1. Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, and Kurt Busch, 12-1. You got Eric Jones up also there, 12-1. Clint Boyer, 14. William Byron, 16. Eric Almirola, 20. And Jimmy Johnson at 25. And then down the list to the bigger numbers. Matt DiBenedetto, 71, some stuff like that.
I think the one thing, though, I think we can feel pretty confident of. The guys, these guys out there, by and large, respect each other enough that if you're Kyle Larson, for example, you are probably not going to race any of those four guys so hard that you would wreck him.
No, and I've been there. I'm not going to race them hard enough to wreck them. But take the year I drove full-time.
A guy did that to you in the truck series, though. He raced you hard enough to wreck you in the last race.
Well, but
I was there that day.
When I drove for Penske in 04, there was championship implications at that last race. Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch were running down to the deal, and I was running in the top 4. All I wanted to do was go forward. But when they got near me, I did go, whoa, 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 take it easy. Don't be an idiot. Don't be the guy that does what happened to me in 03. Don't do that in 04.
Right, you don't want to be on SportsCenter wrecking the guy that could have won the championship.
I don't want to be a highlight from 20 years ago still going, hey, look at what happened.
Right.
So, you absolutely have some of that. But at the same time, you got guys that are saying, hey, if I'm good enough to win, and Kyle Larson, he's going to believe he's good enough to win this race.
Right.
He will try, but they will pull just short of wrecking people.
But that's what I'm saying. He won't rough a guy up to do it. He won't move a guy out of the way. I don't think, not one of these four guys.
No. Not to win the race. They're not going to move him up to move a guy out of position. They're not going to do that. Maybe to win the race, because look, if let's say it's coming to the checkered flag and it's Denny and Kyle Larson, they're running side by side, and he moves him, so Kyle wins the race and Denny still wins the championship. I think they do that, but they're not just going to go up there and spin him out.
Well, and I would say if I'm Denny Hamlin, and I'm leading the race, and Kyle Larson's right behind me, and I got a second or two behind him. Let him go. Let anybody go.
Please go get that other trophy.
If I see that white flag, I'm only concerned with three guys behind me. I do not care about the other 36 guys out there.
Well, and it's really hard. I mean, these odds kind of show it that it's a race within a race. We got to focus on what we need to focus on, and minus 122 across the board. That's a little tough.
Yeah, I mean, you're not winning money, and I pretty much can guarantee two of those four guys at least is going to probably finish in the top three.
So let's get to our matchups. There are a couple amusing ones this week. Remember, this is Thursday when we do the Gaughan Racing show, so they're fairly early. But you got Kyle Busch and Truex Jr. evenly matched at minus 110. Then you go to Kevin Harvick, a favorite at plus 110.
No, he's not a favorite at plus 110. That's the thing. He's an underdog at plus 110.
An underdog
against two guys, but he's the favorite to win the championship. Come on, Chris and Jimmy. What are you doing?
This is Westgate now, so we got the Westgate.
All right, so we got to let those guys off the hook.
Harvick's plus 110, Kyle Busch is minus 130, and Harvick's plus 110 to Martin Truex is minus 130. But Harvick is the guy that has the 225. So I find that kind of amusing. I like seeing Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano, plus 115 for Brad, minus 135 for Joey. That's kind of fun right there, a little teammate action. Denny and Kevin, minus 110s. Denny Hamlin is a favorite, or is a dog against Martin Truex, which I also find that would be one I'd put more of a minus 110, because Denny Hamlin has been. And look, Denny Hamlin's plus 110 to Kyle Busch's minus 130. And Kyle Busch has not won since June.
May.
It was Pocono.
Was it Pocono?
Yeah, it was like June 1st. It was like the first week of June. But that's. Yeah.
I agree.
Speechless on the radio. Again, it's doesn't happen often to me.
You and I love to talk about momentum. One's got it, one doesn't.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
If you're telling me which one of these guys is limping in, now, granted, it was a second place finish in the last race. I would love that to be my limp. Please, if I ever came back out of retirement, let that be a limp for me. But it's still limping when you talk about how many races Martin has won recently, how many races Kevin has won recently, and Denny.
But you know what Martin's done? Martin's won when he had to win.
And that's what Martin has done.
Denny Hamlin has too. But my point is, Martin came in first playoff race at Las Vegas to lock himself in.
Won it.
He won it.
Won the second race.
Won the second race. Just said basically, we're piling on now.
Yeah.
Then he gets into the last segment where you really know it's important to win. And what's he do? He goes out at a place like Martinsville, a place he's never even run with.
Never won at, and they talk about his short track history and stomps him.
I ain't telling you. I believe that is the quiet assassin right there.
I don't disagree, and his crew chief follows that suit too. His crew chief Cole.
How about the 4 crew chiefs we got
I love the crew
in this
is the
deal,
best
boy?
4 crew chiefs ever. If this was a different show, we'd be talking about them. I love them 4 crew chiefs. Let's go to the second page of our head-to-head.
By the way, one we did, Chase Elliott plus 135 against Joey Logano. That's a pretty big number for a head-to-head matchup there. We didn't talk about that one.
It is a pretty big number, but
and Joey really hasn't run well lately.
But Joey's been missing momentum. You want to talk about that?
And that team's going to be down in the dumps this week.
Yeah. So next page, we have a bunch of, kind of some standard minus 110s, Eric Jones and Kurt Busch, Blaney, Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, Eric Jones. But we do have a couple. We have a Clint Boyer, William Byron. Clint Boyer plus 115, William Byron minus 135. A little bit of action there, but the rest of them, I mean, you got your obligatory Jimmy Johnson, Eric Almirola, which it's sad that Jimmy Johnson is a minus 110 versus Eric Almirola minus 110. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. But Alex Bowman against Ryan Blaney minus 110s. I mean, that's kind of Alex Bowman minus 110, Kurt Busch minus 110. Those are that. But Bowman has been top threes. It's just the problem.
Who cares? It's minus 110. I mean, if you really want to try to get people to bet it,
you got to put some. It might change. I mean, look, give
me a plus symbol. I don't want some. I look for plus symbols.
So you never take a favorite, huh?
Didn't say I never take a favorite, but I look for plus symbols.
Did he?
Those 2 minus 110s. Who's the favorite?
Did he just say?
Hold on. Minus 110, minus 110. Who's the favorite?
It's a pick'em.
Okay, so I'm not picking a pick'em.
But he said you won't take a favorite. And we got these fancy monitors behind us that show all these football and basketball.
Oh, now that's scores. A little. I also look at that as a little bit different too.
Oh.
I mean, a team that's getting minus 3 on a football line. That's a little different than this situation
all right,
here.
Just checking. Yeah, you could put $5 down on Rutgers this week and win 10,000.
If you really, yeah. No, I'll save my $5.
Wrong sport. All right, we've done our DraftKings. We've done our to win the race. We've gotten through our matchups. When we come back with Gaughan Racing, we get into our favorite ones, which is the group matchups. More to come on Gaughan Racing.
This is Gaughan Racing, the weekly NASCAR show that gets you ready for this week's big race and more. You could listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiNLive. Welcome back to our weekly NASCAR show, live from the Sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now, back to Gaughan Racing.
Hello, everybody, and once again, welcome back to the VSiN studio. Brennan Gaughan and Jeff Motley here with you. And we've just got through our group matchup, or our head-to-heads. We've got through our to win the race and our DraftKings. And we as we go into our group matchups, Jeff, we do want to make an astute observation.
Yeah, if you can see us on video right now, I am scratching my head. We both are.
Jimmy and the guys that run the South Point book are dear family to me, and
great at what they do.
But I do have to throw a little shade their direction right now. So we talked about Kevin Harvick to win the race. Let's just focus Kevin Harvick.
Well, how about to win the championship?
Kevin Harvick to win the championship. He's plus 225, the favorite to win the championship.
Against
Kyle
Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin.
To win the race at Homestead, though, Kevin Harvick is 3-1, not the favorite. Now, let's cross books. Let's go
to the groups.
To the group matchups now. And in our group matchups...
Group A has got which 4 drivers?
Which Group A has our 4 championship contenders. This comes from the Westgate. And our odds in the group matchups are Martin Truex Jr. plus 250, Kyle Busch plus 250, Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin plus 280. So Kevin Harvick is the dog of the group with Denny Hamlin, which matches. So here's the thing that bettors have to understand. In this business, we call certain people sharps. If you can be a sharp bettor in NASCAR And this is why we always tell people, and we don't talk about it enough on this show because we only have an hour to talk racing, and the NASCAR fan isn't an old school bettor. Search your lines. Don't just come bet at the South Point because it's, hey, come bet at the South Point. No, if you can get better odds at a different place, you got to shop your line. And now with the advent of mobile apps and the things you can do on your phones, shop the line. Look around. See what you can find because you can find some great numbers here. You could bet a Kevin Harvick to win the race at the South Point and get him at 3-1 and then go to the Westgate and put him at 280 to win the group, but don't bet the South Point Championship because he's plus 225.
Well, or go bet Kevin Harvick to win Group A at plus 280 and then come back and bet Martin Truex Jr.
to
win the championship
at 2.5 to 1.
And you got a really good shot of cashing in there.
No, Denny Hamlin's 3-1, but to win the championship, he's plus 275. You could bet Denny Hamlin to win the race at 3-1 and Kevin Harvick to win.
But I'm not even going to worry about betting to win the race because you got all those other factors in there. But when you're talking about the 4 to win the championship,
I like it.
Are the same 4 in Group A. Wow.
All right, let's get off of Group A because we've beat that horse to death.
We talked about those 4 guys all day long.
So let's go to Group B. Group B has 3 guys we've been talking about. One we haven't really talked about today. Joey Logano plus 220, Brad Keselowski 260, Chase Elliott and Eric Jones at plus 295. We've talked about Joey and Brad. That looks about right as far as I'm concerned, is what they should be at. Chase Elliott and Eric Jones tied at 295. That's another good one right there. I think, one, you've got the only guy from Joe Gibbs Racing that didn't make the Final Four, has something to prove. You got Chase Elliott, who's been limping terribly after this round. And then the 2 Fords that, really one of them especially expected to be there. So that's a tough group for me to handicap. But I think they have the odds right.
I think the odds are probably right, but it certainly would not surprise me to see one of those plus 295 numbers come in.
Nope, I could see Chase Elliott for sure.
I could see Eric Jones as well.
Jones do it.
And Eric Jones, what's he going to be, like the world's biggest blocker this weekend? Is he supposed to be the gunner like in roller derby?
The gunner in roller derby. That's a great analogy.
I'm just kind of curious. Look, I'm not saying Eric Jones is going out there to try to affect the championship, but at the end of the day, if Eric Jones is in front of Kevin Harvick, he's got to be hard to pass, right?
Oh, and the thing is for Eric Jones, you're the only Joe Gibbs guy out. If you don't, definitely, like we've talked, you're not going to affect your championship. You're not going to get in the way, but you want to be second. You want to be third. You want to be with the rest of those Joe Gibbs guys because right now everybody's talking, Eric Jones, the weakest link. So you want that. You don't want to have that sitting in your head all off season.
I agree.
You want to put something on it. Into Group C, we've got Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, all at plus 260s, and William Byron at a plus 280. That right there is a unique group. Ryan Blaney just missed out. Alex Bowman so strong on the 1.5 miles this year, a win, a couple top 3s, bunch of top 3s. Kurt Busch, though, the guy we've talked about a lot of the season, that I like this. This group is definitely a difficult one.
Yeah, I really think we've seen over the second half of the season a resurgence in Ryan Blaney. He seems like he has run better a lot of weeks. And I know he didn't get in, but, look, he came really close to making it to Homestead.
Close.
He finished 3rd at Phoenix. He was right there in the running. William Byron's a guy who has been like Mr. Consistency. He just kind of seems to, every week, he's running between 8th and 12th. Alex Bowman seems to have faded a little bit, and Kurt Busch has faded just a little bit this year. Ryan Blaney looks pretty good in that spot.
I do like Ryan Blaney in that group a lot. I think that he does have all that momentum going. He's been, after last week, I don't see it being a letdown.
And he has quietly really put himself right in the middle of that Penske team.
Yes.
He was really a distant third on that team.
Start of the season.
And I don't think most people would look at him as a distant third right now. And granted, he's the guy that hasn't won a championship and hasn't won a ton of races like Joey and Brad have. But I think his performance level has come right up to where those guys are.
Into it. Absolutely. Group D, we got Clint Boyer, 240, Eric Almirola, 270, Daniel Suarez, 275, and Jimmy Johnson, 275. I got to look at that group, and 2 names immediately come to my mind is Daniel Suarez and Eric Almirola.
Well,
I think they're the 2 strongest in that group.
One of those guys is racing for a job.
One of them still looking to get some money to try to get there next year. Eric Almirola has quietly been a bright spot, other than Kevin Harvick, of course. But he's really been – Clint Boyer has been fading greatly the last half of the season. What do you say, a wilting flower of there's some analogy. with a wilting flower or something.
I'm sure they taught you that at Georgetown.
Yeah,
I don't
somewhere
remember.
about that.
But no, I agree that Suarez jumps off the page to me too.
And Eric Almirola.
And Suarez was very good to me in Group D last week.
He was good to you in Group D.
It's about the only one I got right.
And Eric was really good most of the race, and then something happened to Eric late. I can't remember what it was, but he was really strong most of that race last week too. So, I mean, really good stuff from both those guys. I like either one of those in that group. I'm Jimmy Johnson, and it is the dog for a reason. Because
sometimes it's still hard to believe, and it's been 2 years now.
No, it's been a while. All right, then our last two groups, of course, we have Group E is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 255, Austin Dillon there with him. And the two 275s are Paul Menard and Matty D, Matt DiBenedetto at plus 275. Now, last week I said Matt DiBenedetto. If you remember, I said don't touch him, don't touch him. Mile and a halfs have been their Achilles heel. They haven't done a lot.
He won his group.
He won his group, and he finished 13th, and he looked pretty strong. And the week before at Texas, he was in the top 10.
You know what I like about that group, though? You got 3 guys out of those 4 that are all in their final ride in those cars. Now, Paul Menard, it's his final race ever. But for Matt DiBenedetto, it's his last race with Levine Family Racing, and Ricky Stenhouse's last race with Roush Fenway. You got to believe every one of those guys feel like they've got a little something to prove.
Yes, but here's the – okay, when you say that about a Group A or a Group B guy, they got a lot to prove. They got the equipment they can prove it in. You go down to Group E, most of them don't have the equipment to prove it in. So you can want to prove all you want. They're in Group E for a reason, and they, you know.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. These 4 are all pretty even. So maybe it's the guy that has the want to behind the steering wheel.
I like the dog there.
Well, I like the dog. Well, there's 2 dogs there, Menard and DiBenedetto. And look, we like Paul, but I think Paul's probably ready to take it to the house.
I think Matty D is with the performance they've had this year, I think he wins that group, and that could be a pretty easy one for me to pick this week. And then, of course, our Ron Flatter group. Chris Boucher, still nowhere to be found, so we got to give just our Ron Flatter group. Group F, Ryan Preece and Ty Dillon, both 260. Bubba Wallace, 265. And Michael McDowell, 275. Now, after all the
I'm yawning over here.
After all the hullabaloo last week around Darrell Wallace Jr.,
he might need to win this group, lighten the load in his pocket a little bit
to be able to pay off. But
was it 10,000?
50,000.
How many races he has to run to make $50,000?
It depends on what his contract is.
Well,
the Beards pay me well. I get 50,000 a race.
Is this a comedy show we're doing now?
I was seeing if anybody bought it. So if you look at
I thought you were paying them. Ty
Dillon has been the winner in this group more often than not. And last week, Ty Dillon came home in 20th place. The next one in that group was Bubba at 25th.
Ty's driving the better car.
Ty is I think the Ty in this group is, especially this week at Homestead, I think Ty Dillon is a pretty solid pick for this week. I know you gave the yawn to it, but I do think that this is a good pick week for a Ty Dillon.
I think Ty Dillon every week in Group F is a good guy to go with. I bet if we went back through the whole season,
he's probably won it more than he's lost it, but there's been weeks that Bubba has done really well. A couple weeks, Michael McDowell popped up there and did really well.
But throughout the entire year, I think if you bet Ty Dillon every week in Group F, you probably would have won money.
You probably were on the leading side. So a few of those in the group matchups that we liked, a few of those that we kind of said, we've beat the dead horse, but they're stay away from. So when we come back, we get to, give you the update on our league standings, which the dark side took the lead again.
Somebody went 0 for 5 last week.
Yeah, well.
It was not me, by the way. So, if you guys are only listening to us on the radio, those fingers are being pointed straight at Mr. Gaughan.
So when we come back, I'm going to redeem myself. We're going to tell you how we did, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is on Gaughan Racin'. Stay with us.
This is Gaughan Racin', the weekly NASCAR show that gets you ready for this week's big race and more. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiNLive. Welcome back to our weekly NASCAR show, live from the Sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now, back to Gaughan Racin'.
All right, everybody, this is Banking It. Brendan Gaughan, Jeff Motley here, the VSiN Studios, Gaughan Racin. And this is where we put our money where our mouth is and we tell you what we think. Now, let's do a quick overview of the season since this is the last race. Had you been betting with us, you said this last week, had you been betting with us all season long, you would have made a lot of money. You'd have been able to win. We consistently had enough picks to win. Ann Goldstone, our producer, who came on halfway through the year. Some of these numbers maybe are attributed to some others, but she is the one that flat out kicked our butt. Ann is at 42.4 units. Last week, she only lost half a unit. She got Blaney to be top 3.
If you'd bet $100 on Ann's bets, she'd have won you $4,200.
So Ann is killing it. Jeff Motley last week now is solidly in second. He was minus 1.25, but he is 32.05 on the season units. And then I was sitting right there in second. We were all jumbled up, and I made sure that I lengthened the field there the wrong way. I lost all 5 of my bets last weekend, and I ended up now 24.05 units.
Yeah, a little too much love for Kevin Harvick last week.
I did go a little too much love on Kevin Harvick last week. Pretty much.
That's what goes back to what we were talking about. The guys that are locked into Homestead,
yeah,
don't bet them in the.
We said that, and I didn't follow my own advice.
Yep.
So with that being said, we're going to do our 5 units this week. But one of the things is one of our unit must be picking a champion. So, with no further ado, we will lead off with our producer and only one ankle in a cast, Ann Goldstone.
Thank you. I'm taking advantage of these mixed up numbers here as far as to win the championship and then to win the race. And
Okay.
I'm going to take Kevin Harvick at 3-1 to win the race. And then to win the championship, I am actually taking Marty. I'm going to go with the Martin Truex.
Marty.
Yeah, I'm going to go Marty.
We did need to point out that we have agreed that we are all going to pick a champion.
All of us
that
have to
was
pick a
one of our
champion.
5
That's it.
picks.
All
is for
of
the
us have to pick a
champion.
champion.
So, and then I am going to take, you said no, we weren't going to do a top 3 probably, but I'm taking a top 3. I'm taking a top 3 to, maybe extend a lead or something. And I'm going to take Kurt Busch in the top 3 at 12-1.
12-1. Ooh.
And then I'm just going to round it out with a couple of group matchups. And I'm going to take Eric Jones in Group B at plus 295. And then over in Group E, I'm going to, for one last time, take Matty D.
But I like that. Now, unfortunately, that I have to make a comeback, so I cannot have the same picks. Oh, that's right. I'm not in second anymore.
Yeah, you don't get to pick yet, so just slow your roll over there, BG.
Please, Mr. Motley.
We've had so much fun this year on this show, haven't we?
Yes.
All right. Because I really do want to win this thing, I am competitive. I'm going to take a long shot on a race win to try to catch Ann. So I'm going to take the defending race winner, Joey Logano, at 25-1 to win the race.
Champion will not be the race winner.
Well,
okay.
I didn't necessarily say that. I'm just trying to catch up here.
That's what you just said by putting his money there. And
Right.
isn't that what he's saying?
Right. My champion pick, which is my second pick here, I'm going to go with the hot guy. I've said for 5 months I thought he was going to win the championship. I still think he's winning the championship. I'm going Denny Hamlin at plus 275 to win the championship. And then my other picks are all going to be in the groups. I'm going to go a guy, I've mentioned how hot I think he is. He's been doing a good job lately. Ryan Blaney in Group C at plus 260. I'm going to go down to Group D. I am riding my man Daniel Suarez. He has come through for me on a few groups lately. Going Daniel Suarez in Group D. And I will not gain any ground on Ann because I also agree with Matt DiBenedetto winning in Group E. So my 5 picks. Come on, Joey. I want to win this thing. Well, I'll send him a note this week.
You're killing me. You guys are
Killing me, Smalls. You're killing me, Smalls. What movie was that? The Sandlot?
That's already because I can't have the same one as you guys because I got to make a comeback here.
Well, you think I really wanted to take Joey Logano at 25-1?
I wanted Matt DiBenedetto. I thought, okay, so.
Well, that wasn't going to make you up that much ground.
That is upset. So looking at the numbers, I think Martin Truex is going to win the championship, but he only pays me $250 to win the championship, but he pays me $275 to win the race. So I'm taking Martin Truex Jr. to win the race because that's who I think is actually going to win the championship. But then for the championship, since I have to pick one, I'm going to take Denny Hamlin at plus 275 because he also returns the most for my money there. So I'm giving up a unit. I know I'm going to give up 1 unit there either way, but it gives me a chance to gain 1.75, which at this point I'm close enough. All I need is chip in a chair, knock me there. Now, I am going to go with, so I have 3 units, and I got to get away from you guys. So first, I'm going to take Ty Dillon in Group F. Ty, I need you, plus 260. Bring me something home. Eric Almirola in Group D, I'm going to go with Eric at plus 270 also. Once again, I like what I've been seeing out of him. Now, I did have Matt DiBenedetto. Y'all got me scrambling now. I got to find out another bet here to make.
Because it's going to be hard for you to catch anybody with this bet you're making here.
But the little ones, you guys lose 5, and I can gain right there to get enough to almost be at Ann if she loses all 5 of hers. So
if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be Christmas.
So I'm going to go. I got to go into the top 3, and I'm going to say, Alex Bowman, please do me one more time. He's the guy that got me. He's the guy that brought me out of the cellar originally from the negative numbers. Alex Bowman, one more time, my man. 12-1. Come on, Alex. I got faith. Alex Bowman, 12-1, DraftKings top 3.
Okay.
I just want to point out, though, that if you had just put all 5 units on Denny Hamlin, you could actually catch me and beat me if I lost all 5 of my units. Mathematically, that would have been possible.
True.
Lesson learned.
But I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket because I gotta shop around here. I've been telling everybody you got to shop even books. I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can do that.
You can.
Obviously you can. I just don't think that would be the smart way to go about it.
Instead, a guy put $5 on Rutgers at plus, was it 200,000 plus 200,000 at South Point? So hey, I'll put all my eggs in that basket.
They've actually put a money line.
Oh yeah,
on
they
that
put a
game?
money line on it, plus 200,000.
They should have put one on Evansville, Kentucky the other night.
Yeah, glad. Actually, I think we were the only book in town that had it.
I think you were. were too.
Michael Gaughan, he loves to take the risk.
There you go.
All right, well, that is the end of Gaughan Racing. We will do a recap show next week. So
recap and a preview.
A recap and a preview.
2020.
If Mr. Musburger asks us back. So that's probably still up for debate. But Mr. Motley, it's been a great season. Ann, thank you so much for coming in this year. And we know we got you midway through the season, but it's been a ton of fun having you with us.
It's been absolutely outstanding.
Except that you're beating us, which after that...
That's why it's been absolutely outstanding. Truth be told.
I think we need to request a new producer next year. Mr. Motley, season's coming to a close. What do you got going on?
Well, out at the Speedway, we've got the dirt track going on this weekend, the duel in the desert happening out there with the IMCA Modifieds.
When's the Christmas lights?
Christmas lights are already open. We've got the Christmas lights going through, so bring the kids out. That runs through the first week of January.
If you guys haven't done it, Jeff, it's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. You can drive your car through a Christmas lights display. For people that listen to us around the country, there's a lot of them in different places around the country. Charlotte's got one, Bristol's got one, Texas does one, Atlanta does one.
It's really worth it.
It is really
cool.
cool.
Up, you get hot chocolate and popcorn for the kids, and they sit in, and there's music playing.
And a percentage of the proceeds goes to Speedway Children's Charities that benefits from it. So it's a really neat event, and you can go out there every night between now and I think it's like January the 5th, I think is going to be the end of it. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Come out, and it's I think it's $20 for a cart, for as many people as you can put in your car.
Listen, it's worth it to pay the Fast Pass one. You got the Fast Pass.
Well, yeah, I think that's a few extra bucks.
Yeah,
but yeah, it probably is, especially if you're going on the weekend.
Yes.
You're going on the weekend, you want to bypass the line. But yeah, the dirt track's running this weekend with the IMCA Modifieds. We got a couple drag racing events. Also, this weekend out at the Speedway, we're going to be the parking home for Aviation Nation, the big air show that goes on at Nellis Air Force Base. Really kind of a show of American firepower, I guess, if you will. So
love that. Well, I appreciate it. I got Sunday. I'll have Gaughan Racing with me and Pete Pistone for the last time this season, and then I'm racing the Baja 1000. So I'll be in Mexico, leaving actually right after this, heading down there to pre-run.
We'll see your little picture in a computer box next week for our wrap up in 2020 preview show.
I will be there. I will still be able to make it. I'll still be there. So we're gonna we'll pull off the course of pre-running and make sure that I can come in and get.
You're in a buggy or a truck?
I'm a buggy dork.
Buggy
the
guy.
Gaughan family, We've been buggy dorks too long. I drove the first trophy trucks back in the 90s. That's how old I am, but I'm a buggy dork. So from the buggy dork, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We'll say it again to you next week, but we appreciate you guys all season long on Gaughan Racing. Thanks for listening, and hopefully we can make you some money and maybe cash you a few tickets to steal my friend's line. Gaughan Racing. See you next week.
This is Gaughan Racing, the weekly NASCAR show that gets you ready for this week's big race and more. You could listen to VSiN on Sirius XM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.